Okay, today's video, we're going to talk about how to hire a PPC manager. What not to do, which is way more important than to what to do, because what not to do tells you basically what you need to do. %90 of what most people think they need to do is not what you actually need to do, and they don't think things through, and they end up getting somebody who really are able to do anything productive at all, ultimately. This isn't a paper pushing job where somebody, the worst case scenario, they do it a little slow. You don't do this right, you tank your business ultimately long term, or at least if you're relying on PPC driving business to your company. So I'm going to go through, having been doing PPC for 20 years and have hired many and trained many people to do PPC tasks, and give you all just the main things that you need to know if you are going to be successful with it. Regardless of what your budget is, for that, I have a solution for you to actually find the right person. As marketing is very different, and PPC goes along with that, is very different than any other type of hire that you have, because there is no standard set way to do anything. Yes, Google has certifications and all that, but that only tells people how to do what they want people to do to make Google the most money, and Google doesn't want you to make money if it stops them from making more money. So there is no certification program per se that you could just point to and say, okay, if they have that certification, they can do it. And in fact, if everybody had the same way of doing things, that method would not be profitable anymore, because what works on these platforms that are competitive is like 20% of the people who run the ads are going to be making all the money, or practically speaking all the money, and 80% are going to make little to nothing. And so if you're going to be in that 20%, you actually have to think different and do different. And therefore, a certain person that you hire, they're going to have to be an outside the box thinker in order to do that. They just follow the same beaten path as everybody else. They're going to get everybody else's results. And the typical person either makes very little, works very hard for little profit, if not loses money. And people don't know they don't make money a lot of times because they don't track the results really well. There's always a way to track your PPC results. 70% of people don't track their results, and I know that because I audit hundreds and hundreds of different ad accounts for people, or from different people, and I just understand about what that ratio basically is. So they kind of like, if you will, hire someone cheap. Oh, it's cheap. So if it doesn't work that great, oh, I'm not out that much money. And that's their main goal with hiring somebody as a PPC manager, which is really idiotic from the standpoint that if you actually do it right, you can end up making millions upon millions of dollars for your business and scale it 10 times, 20 times, 30 times what it is. If you've got somebody who understands how to take a dollar, make a dollar from it, and then recycle that back into the ad spend and build it up. So there really, at the end of the day, isn't any benefit in taking a shortcut and finding the right person, because the wrong person is going to lose you money and the right person is going to make you millions. And you don't, there's a clear dividing line. Of course, you have to be so good in order to make it even make sense at all. So, and then of course, on top of that, it takes time for somebody that you hire has to learn your inner workings of your business, your market, and all that. And you might be 6 months into the process before that person's really truly like lethal in terms of setting up ads that will speak to your customer base and all that. And you're best off trying to spend more time figuring out how to find the right person up front than to just rush through it and then realize 6 months later you got somebody who doesn't fundamentally know how to think outside the box or put things together that can actually beat your competition, because that's literally what you have to do. This isn't a vacuum where everybody plays, everybody wins. There's a few winners and there's mostly losers. Figure out how to find that person up front, spend the time to find that person up front, and then everything else is going to happen very easily for you after that. So I'm going to explain how to find that particular person for your business, regardless of what your budget is right now, considering most people who actually know what they're doing in terms of running PPC ads have many opportunities available to them. They don't need to take a so-called low pay or entry level job if they already know what they're doing. And if they don't know what they're doing and you think you're going to train them, it's mostly just going to be a waste of time, given 90% of people who try to do PPC don't actually have what it takes. They're not an outside the box thinker. They're not a self-starter person. They don't understand how to actually put things, they don't know how to make things happen. Ultimately, it's not an easy thing. It's not something that an average person can do, even though there's, tutorials out there. You have to be a well-rounded thinker and person just to be able to put all the little pieces of the puzzle together to understand how to scale a business to many, many millions more in sales on the backs of just having the PPC done right. So that said, good PPC managers you can hire. They know a lot more about getting results with PPC in terms of the physical components of what makes up good PPC results. Good landing pages, understanding tracking, understand how to write ad copy, understand, like for instance, how to make a banner ad. Even though they might be not doing it directly, they have to guide people to do it, and they got to know what the people they're asking to do it, will work or not, so they know whether or not to run with that. They'll know a lot more than just knowing how to click different buttons in your Google and Facebook account, because anybody can go and read the documentation on Facebook on how to create an ad. The people that will go on to make millions, that's just like your basic, cost of entry is knowing how to make the ad physically in Facebook. The people that make millions understand how to make an effective ad. You can hire anybody to make an ad. You can pay them, nothing per hour and get that done. The person who knows how to make an effective ad has a lot of opportunity available to them. Everybody wants that person. They can go and run businesses themselves that they start up on the side for themselves. It's not going to be a secret for long that person's effective, and that person's going to, self-realize their worth, and you're not going to get them for cheap. So and they're rare, because like I mentioned before, not just anybody just can't get and figure out how to make an effective ad. You kind of have to have it in you when you start out, and then you have to have experience doing it and learn it. But still, at the end of the day, even if every single person tried to do it, not everybody's going to be successful at it, even after trying many different things on how to make good, effective ads. It's kind of like a personality trait. You're either artistic and creative or you're not. So that's the number one thing that people make the mistake on. They say, well, they know how to make campaigns. They have experience making campaigns for others in the past, so I'm already good. And that's literally 5% of what it takes to actually make millions of dollars in from running PPC ads for your business and scaling up a PPC campaign for your business. You have all this other stuff that you have to also be able to do in conjunction, because the PPC is so intertwined with all the other stuff. There's stuff that has to be done before you even run the ads. There's stuff that you have to do after running the ads. And it all affects whether the PPC works. And if you just are looking through a straw and say, I'm just going to so-called just get conversions in my account, and don't want to know anything about anything else that's going on, most of the time, you're not going to be effective. I hear people dealing with people like this all the time. They say, yeah, the conversions are going up. Well, they don't understand the quality of the conversions they're getting. They don't understand how to optimize for a big customer versus a small customer, and on and on and on and on. Because that person's so small-minded, they don't actually become effective for that company or not, even though they know how to physically put an ad together. And so, anyway, with that said, I boiled this down, though, to a basic list of traits that if you know you have the right person, you will know you will have the right person or not if they have these traits. And that's what you should be looking for by default. So, whereas everybody else is going to try to go for that professional person who has a good professional background, the really good PPC person is going to be rough around the edges, and a person who gets results is a person that thinks outside the box. A closed mind follower is not going to get good results, because you got to be creative to have good ads in the first place. So with that said, here's the list of traits that you want that a person has that is lethal in terms of running ads and can scale ads very effectively for your business profitably and so forth. First thing is you got to be a well-rounded marketer. So to make PPC work, a lot of times you're doing your PPC even for an e-commerce business. You're generating people contact. You're getting email addresses. In order to make an ROI from your prospects that you're generating, you got to understand email marketing. because that bolsters what you're doing and what you have to pay to get people to your site in the first place. You got to understand speed of response, of responding to leads. The quicker you respond, the higher the ROI you're going to get from the traffic you're driving. You have to understand, like the users, how to discover what users are more profitable than others based upon their individual unique traits, and then filtering out who sees the ad. So if you sell, real estate, and you want to have the profitable deals, well, you have to understand how to find out what are the traits of somebody who's looking for real estate that is super profitable, and then filter your ads accordingly, not just show up for real estate broker in, Texas, but understanding that actually to get a higher quality, a profitable prospect, you have to drill down so that if there's, you want them to search for that keyword, but also be over 45 years old, in a high income zip code, and on and on and on. And a person, it's fine if you're an expert marketer and you can hold the hand of the person doing this, but a true PPC so-called manager needs to be able to come to you and tell you what to do, and have to understand. And if they don't know it outright, they have to be open-minded and inquisitive enough to think about that, because a lot of times that simple thing right there causes a campaign to either work or not work. So, and then of course the website itself. To make a website that converts well, you have to understand consumer psychology, how to make people not think when they get to the website, to make things intuitive for the user. Understand how to write good copy on your website. And you may be saying, well, we have different people for that, and the PPC person has to do what they're doing. If the PPC person doesn't understand what a good website is versus a bad website, what they're going to do is tell you, yeah, great, this looks great. And they're going to drive a whole bunch of traffic to your website or landing page, and you're going to end up pissing a ton of money away because you have a clueless person who doesn't actually know the other half of what it takes to make money with PPC, which is having an effective website that can convert traffic at a decent enough rate to pay for the cost of the ad spend and the product or service cost that you have to deliver. And then, of course, with landing pages, you got to understand how to make landing pages. There's never usually one landing page that works for all your traffic, so you got to know how to understand different landing pages for different people and different traffic sources, and understanding a good page versus a bad page for each traffic source. So you got to know a lot of stuff in order to actually set the PPC up right. And if you just, like I said, just have a person who just quote unquote knows Google ads or just knows Facebook ads, they're looking through a straw, and then they're probably going to piss all your money away because they don't understand and stop you and say something like, hey, wait, before we start these ads, you actually need to do X, Y, and Z as well. Otherwise, this ad is never going to work. So there's that. And then second of all, understands business well. So going a bit further there, does the person understand what pricing strategy is about? Understanding how to optimize price to get the PPC ads to work correctly. Understand how to generate scarcity. That is, how to build urgency so when somebody gets to the site, they don't procrastinate and delay their purchase. And then that small things like having a countdown timer on your site saying you have a sale for the next 7 days will boost conversion rates 50%, which typically it will. And just adding this small value add to your whole. So there's all these individual little things that can take something that wouldn't necessarily have worked well, that will make it work if you understand all these other little components that make a PPC campaign successful in the first place. The PPC is just one component of the overall package that gets things to work. So if you don't understand business, and you just are a nerd basically, don't understand margins, gross margin, net margin, lifetime value of a customer, you're basically just, again, looking through a straw, and they're not going to be able to advise you when it isn't a good move to advertise because you don't have the rest of the pieces of the puzzle in place. You need a self-starter. Of course, like if you're having to tell them what to do, you've already failed. You need somebody that can tell you what you need to do, and then furthermore, of course, talk is cheap, be able to deliver results. Can they generate 10 to 20% more conversions month over month consistently over time? And a lot of times people make the mistake of expecting it right away. Usually it takes 6 months after you even hire somebody to really start seeing that actual level of results come, which is why you have to pick the right person in the first place if you're not going to, waste a ton of money on salary here. But, it's never going to work. You're never going to get those great results ultimately unless you know the person that you're working with already has all this information and can advise you what to do. Because you advising them, I see it all the time at our agency. People try to tell me what to do. They don't know enough about PPC and it doesn't work. And I've gotten to the point where I just say, either it's done my way or just go someplace else, because what you're going to do is tell me what to do. It's not going to work. And then you're going to blame me anyway. What's the point in all that? If you're that good, hire a data entry person to execute certain strategies for you. If not, hire the person who knows what they're actually doing and let them work and let the numbers speak for themselves. And then worth that, have targets in mind. Mathematically calculate what your cost per lead needs to be, what your ROI needs to be, and tell them what you need and see if they can deliver it or not. Give them 6 months to hit that number or get close. If they don't, fire them. It's really simple. What you need is somebody that's not certified. It seems like anymore it's less, but I had people all the time say, "Oh, you're Google certified." And the reality is, if you're certified by Google, you know almost nothing. You know 1% of what you need to know to make millions of dollars with PPC ads. But what it does is it gets you basically brainwashed to think how Google wants you to think so that Google makes the most money. It does not in any way indicate whatsoever whether a person is going to be effective at making money with PPC ads or not. You want something that doesn't drink the Kool-Aid. That doesn't just going to say, well, Google says, or Google says, or Google says, and then ends up just making Google a bunch of money, pisses all your money away. You want to know, it's like trying to say that if you got in trouble and you got falsely accused of a crime, and you're going to go and take advice from a lawyer who just listens to the prosecutor for all their knowledge. Dumb. You need an impartial person that can sift through what Google says, tells you certain aspects of it that's good versus not good, and has a mind of its own, because Google is going to do what good for Google, what's good for Google is you spending more money and hopefully not even knowing that it's not profitable, so you just keep wasting more and more money with them. Just buy ad space that nobody else wants. So you want somebody that's, in other words, impartial. If they start saying everything that comes out of their mouth is Google says this, or Google likes this, huge red flag right up front. You want to get somebody that's got experience getting results dozens of times. Just because somebody's gotten results with PPC once, that could certainly just be a fluke. And I'm not just being a hater here. Legitimately, there's some products that are just, and services, way easier to promote based upon level of competition. So if you saw somebody got results once, that certainly could have been a fluke. You, of course, should look at the difficulty of what they were selling in terms of it being a commodity or not being a commodity, and maybe it was just cheaper than anything else or whatever. But the best way is to know somebody who's done this dozens of times already, so that you know it's not a fluke, but also because there are certain strategies they used for that particular company before that's not going to work on your work for your company. So their mindset by default would be, if they only did things once, is to let's do everything we did for here to you. And then only 10% of it really should apply. I know every company is going to have a different set of strategies that's going to work for them. So the only true way to know if you got somebody who actually knows what they're talking about is if they have multiple companies they can tell you, like dozens. We got great results here, 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 here. You could talk to any of them if you want. And that right there is the person that you have no question that can get you results. Of course, that person, is going to be expensive. And a lot of people don't want to pay that person because they're way too expensive. They're six figures. They want a six-figure salary a year. But you could hire the $30,000 employee intern, but they're literally just going to piss all your money away. So you're not helping yourself out hiring the crappy person. Now, that said, there's an easy way to get the six-figure guy without having to pay six figures, which I'm going to talk about, which is to offer a commission. Somebody that's truly good at PPC will take if you're willing to pay them more on the back end and lock them in as like a partner. But trying to get somebody that's super effective as a PPC manager for dirt cheap prices because you can't afford it, and then just hoping that the person knows that they just basically undervalue themselves, it's not going to work. Particularly as a person that's that stupid and undervalues themselves like that isn't going to be an outside the box thinker that good PPC managers have to be. You get what I'm saying here? So like They can think outside the box to make an ad, but they don't know how to value their own services, their own, what they can provide as an employee to you. They don't align. Furthermore, you want somebody who has experience marketing on commission of some sort, someone that's truly good, that can truly get good results. They're not going to just settle for salary unless they're just getting started and you stumble upon somebody that's on their way up, and before you found somebody that's going to be huge, but they haven't quite blew up yet, if you will. So they're going to want super high salary, but probably they want salary plus commission, like a percentage of all the sales that they're generating. Or they're going to have history of actually promoting a company that they own. Why? Because if you are good at PPC and you know it, and you have confidence in yourself, you're going to know marketing your own stuff you can make 10 times as much money as working for somebody as a PPC manager. So unfortunately, the things that make a good PPC manager also makes them somebody that, potentially compete with you. The person who never wants to work for themselves, never work at least on commission or get a bonus, profit sharing or whatever, that's the person who's not going to be very good anyway. So unfortunately, it's just how it is. And because everybody wants to hire a good PPC manager, there's only so many to go around. A good person who can really get good results can easily negotiate that deal with somebody, and if not with you, it's going to be somebody else. But the fact that they did something on the side, like they had a little mini website selling furnace filters or selling computer batteries, or offering deck installation services, that should tell you right there you've got the outside the box self-starter thinker that you want as a PPC manager, because that's like the best example of it. Somebody who's never tried anything like that, that just shows that they're not very, a bunch of self-starter. I would automatically tell you up front. Reads a lot to stay current. So naturally, PPC is changing all the time. If you should go and find out some latest stuff that's going on, ask them some questions about it. If they say, I don't know about that, or I haven't heard of that, that's a big red flag as well, because a lot of people, they get successful doing PPC and then they get lazy and then they stop staying involved in what's going on and they fall behind. You don't want a person like that either. You want a polymath, somebody that can pick up new concepts quickly. So one of the biggest complaints I have that people that come to me that have worked with 2, 3, 4, 5 different PPC managers in the past and have failed, which is very common, by the way. They don't come to us until after all that because we're not cheap. And they have to prove themselves and get their asses handed to them 5 times before they finally realize somebody that's getting paid $30,000 a year isn't going to make them millions of dollars with that, running ads for their business. Ultimately, the biggest complaint is they know a lot about PPC, but they don't know a lot about our business because the person is basically a moron. Yes, they know how to read a manual on how to set up a campaign, but they aren't quick on their feet thinkers. You got to be able to pick up new concepts quick. You don't have time for that person to wait 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years for them to be familiar with your business to run an effective ad. You need somebody who can literally look at your business, ask a few questions, hit the ground running. They know pretty much as they need to know about your business to run an effective ad within a week. And if they can't do that, they're just going to waste tons of your money. And unfortunately, a person that can do that, by the way, is somebody that's going to be a high IQ individual, probably 120 or above, and they're going to be expensive because they can do PPC that can do a lot of different things. And yeah, you may not want to hear that you have to pay them a ton of money and that the PPC person shouldn't be paid as much as me as the owner, but realistically, the person that can make it rain is just as important as the business owner. And the quicker you realize that, the more successful you can be. That might piss some of you guys off, but the reality is the sales and the marketing people are just as important as the business owner unless you're selling some technological thing that's just, you've invented a device that will change the world. If you're just doing a commodity thing, you're selling roofs, you're selling, laptop batteries that a bunch of other people do. The marketing and sales people are just as important as you, and they should be paid as good as you. If you don't, you're going to get somebody who's just a moron working on your stuff, and you're just going to keep banging your head against the wall, frankly. And finally, naturally inquisitive and logical. So a person that can be a good PPC manager will be asking questions. Why? Why is it like this? What about this? Why is this happening? Why do we have to do it like this? And then furthermore, when they ask why, and they ask you a bunch of, because you should be hearing questions like, well, why do you charge it this? Why do you offer it like this? And not to see it as an insult, because that shows that's the type of person that can actually get good results with PPC and is a good PPC manager. And then ultimately with that, they should hear what you say and then say, oh, that makes sense. Or, oh, okay, interesting. Well, why don't you do this? Because I actually know because of this and how users usually behave when, we should do this, and therefore use the information you're given them to come up with logical conclusions on how to improve your marketing. You just already have a closed-minded person that's not going to really bring too much to the table. They'll maybe maintain what you have, but they're not going to skyrocket your business. So with all that said, that is all the stuff your ideal person that can make you millions of dollars is going to do, is going to have. Unfortunately, that person's going to make 6 figures a year, probably between $200,000 and $400,000 a year. You may be falling off your chair here and saying, there's no way I'm paying that. Okay, fine. And like I said, there's an easy way around that. That is, you do profit sharing. Somebody that's really, really good that would normally get paid $250K a year, that's way outside the box thinking and all of this, that can really just nail it. Most companies won't want to do profit sharing because they're too greedy or whatnot. So if you could come in and say, hey, I'll pay you $50,000 a year, but I'll lock you in as a partner and we'll give you 2% of the gross sales forever, and we'll assure you that 10% of our sales revenue that we have will for sure recycle that back into ad spend. So basically, the quicker you can scale the ad spend and do it in a way that is going to get a suitable enough ROI, so that we're still only spending 10% or less of our total sales on ad spend, the more you're going to be able to make. And they'll think, okay, well, I'm not making much now, but by year 3, I'll be making basically more than what I would have, or the same of what I would have been making at this other company that's paying me straight on salary. And by year 7, I've legitimately got something so good that I have, money that I could, if I just keep getting it for the next 5 or 10 years, I can retire. That's going to be a more attractive option than the salary for that person. There's an exit strategy for them. So you got to always think about it from the employee's angle. Yes, for a run-of-the-mill, off-the-shelf employee that you have that isn't super rare to get, it's, salary's fine. But for this super rare person that can truly get good results, everybody wants them. You got to sweeten the pot a little bit to really get the person who knows what they're doing. And there's tons of people who are going to pretend they're great on paper, they interview great, but they really don't know jack shit. And 90% of people who come to you that you interview, even that gets to the point where even after you filter them out of the interview process in terms of the resumes, and that 90% of the people you interview will still be full of shit. And it's really hard at not knowing anything about PPC who's full of shit and who's not, which is why I gave you all these things here. But just knowing there's a certain amount of expectation of salary or what they're going to make for somebody who really knows what's going on and how to get results, that if they were willing to accept $50,000 a year, they almost exclusively are not going to know and have what it takes to make you millions of dollars a year in your business, in addition to what you already have, simply through scaling your ads for your business. So I know there's a lot of information there that probably aggravated / pissed off a lot of people watching this, but this channel isn't about helping people feel good about themselves or anything like that. This is legitimate information that needs to be out there. This whole industry of PPC managers is just full of charlatans. And it's not just me being a hater here. It's legitimately, it's really easy to say you know how to do PPC. It's a whole nother thing actually being able to take ad spend and scale it up 10, 20, 50 times for what it is now, and while maintaining an ROI on your campaign while you scale it up, so you could make millions of dollars just through the opportunity of what PPC and online marketing offers, or running ads online offers a business. And there's a lot of people that can make a living saying they can do PPC, working at a company for a while, getting fired, finding another one, And you say, well, how would they last if they don't know how to get results? The reality is there's such a shortage of good PPC people. And because people can't pay 200 grand a year for a good PPC person, they'll just keep getting scammed again and again and again and again. And people just keep thinking, well, why can't I find somebody who knows what they're doing? Well, at 50 grand a year, they were never going to find anybody. And that's just the reality. So that just by being cheaper than the people who know what they're doing, they can always find a job. Ultimately, that's the bottom line for you. That's the reality of the situation. Why 90% of the people who are out there don't know what they're doing. And usually when I tell people this and they haven't been burned 4 or 5 times, they don't believe it. And they have to touch, the hot stove themselves several times before it just sinks in. You don't have to do that. You can take my word for this. And if it were that easy just to hire anybody for a cheap amount of money and get results, I would hire them myself and use them to start a bunch of businesses on the side myself, in addition to what we already do here and to work with clients. It's not like that. It's not that easy. So that said, I'll wrap it up with that. If you have any questions, leave me a comment below. I'll get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, usually within 24 hours. If you want to make and want to learn PPC yourself and not just hire a PPC manager, this channel has the best information you're going to find about making money with PPC ads, millions of dollars in sales with PPC ads than you're going to find anywhere else online. This is all I do is just ad strategy all day long for our dozens of clients. So therefore, the information is real. It's coming from firsthand experience, and I'm constantly doing this for our clients, and therefore the information is valid. All the rest of what you basically hear online is coming from secondhand experts or people who don't actually run ads. So therefore, you want to subscribe to this channel if that's what you actually want to do, and you want to subscribe to it now versus later. Furthermore, I also have a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog where you can find step-by-step information on actual systems and strategies that make money, including and with screenshots and so forth. If you like the information on my channel, you're going to love my blog even more if you haven't visited it yet. As I mentioned, I run an ad agency. We are the only agency out there that runs PPC ads where we do not take a fee unless you are able to make more profit than you were before starting out with your ads. Or we earn a certain amount of profit from your ads right up front on any new campaign. We're the only agency that does that. The only catch is you got to have something we know we can get great results with up front to take you on as a client. We don't work with just anybody, but if you want to see if we can work together, reach out to me at guaranteeppc.com. I'd be more than happy to give you a free assessment and to see what can be done with your ads for your business and if we can work together and how much results we can actually give you. If you're not looking to work with an agency, I understand that. But as a side, just to let you know, we also have ad templates that we sell. We've worked in over 100 niche markets in the last 10 years. If we've gotten results in your niche market already, you could simply take the ads, the landing pages, the campaign templates that we developed for your market and copy and paste those into your own ad accounts and into your own systems and get the same results we're getting or have gotten already, and with none of the work, basically speaking, and none of the money that it took us to figure out what works the best in your market. We've got people starting other businesses with these templates. They're so good. That is, if you wanted to start an e-commerce business, you can take one of our templates that sells an item you can get your hands on. And as long as you're not in the same country as our current client who uses it in his country or her country, you can use it in a different country and it'll be turnkey results. It's as easy of a business as you can start as possible, given the hardest thing about starting a business is coming out with the ad campaign that works, that needs to go with it. We got people also, by the way, not only just getting into e-commerce, but generating leads and then selling leads because our templates are so efficient at generating leads at a low cost in a number of different spaces, which is a great passive income business idea. Anyway, if you're interested in that type of thing, you can reach out to me as well at guaranteeppc.com. I'd be more than happy to tell you what markets we've worked in and what results we've gotten in them as well. So if you're, anyway, I'll wrap it up with that. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. It made a lot of sense, and I'll see you on the next one. See you later.